also going to be very brief, other than to say thank you, Laura, thank you to the whole crowd at MIT Enterprise Forum, and of course, thank you Microsoft for being the kind of founder of the feast and the buyer of the drinks. And if only one could be married at the Nerd Center. What would be better? I had this incredible sessions. Maybe if I have a second, it almost might be worth it. So this is just this fantastic crowd, and I'm not going to bother with any preliminaries other than to say, we're keeping it kind of meta in this event. So a lot of times we just think about innovation, and we're all involved in innovation at some level. Some of us are running startups, some of us are in big companies just trying to get something going. But at Harvard Business Review, we're always writing articles about how to manage something better. And in the past 10 years, how to manage innovation better has become the topic. It's the thing everyone needs to learn to do on a routine basis. It's really easy to forget that wasn't always the case. It's like it's easy to forget we didn't always have iPhones, but we didn't always have the innovation imperative. Well, now we do, but we're not really very good. We're still very young in our maturity as managers on how to manage that well. And so, consequently, we're always innovating innovation. That's what this panel is about. It's like looking at new ways of thinking about that process of innovation that maybe we could learn from each other. So what better folks to teach us about this? And the other thing I'll say about this panel is just that we have this, basically 3 tag teams here. We really have accomplished an amazing diversity of different, we have the kind of startup, we have the big company environment, we have the kind of old company, the new company. We have really great diversity in terms of the technologies that they that have enabled their innovations and the customers that they serve. So we're going to just hear about this from all kinds of different angles. The way this is going to go is that we're going to start with little, very quick presentations by each of these teams where they're going to put something on the table for you all to chew on. Then we're going to have a general conversation with some questions that I've prepared. Then I'm going to go to you and ask for your questions. At the very end, we're going to have this kind of fireworks display of asking each of them what they learned from this panel, which I think is going to be really interesting to see what they think are the takeaways. It's also a way to make sure that nobody in this room leaves, because that's going to be key. So don't leave during that Q&A session. There's also the drinks. Okay, so just putting names which you can see with the companies that they're from. So on the end we have Praveen Tipirneni. He's the Senior Vice President of Corporate Development and Global Strategy at Cubist Pharmaceuticals. And next to him is Chatham Sullivan. He's from Innosight. And we want to especially thank Chatham because he's a, sorry? Yeah, oh God, I'm sorry. Why did I just say that? Innosight. It's funny how it rolls off the tongue. And he's a kind of late-breaking stand-in for his colleagues. So I especially want to thank Chatham for being part of the panel today. Next to him is Gareth from MassMutual, and his role there is that he's the Vice President of Advanced Analytics. And I just think it must be an amazing thing to be the person in charge of advanced analytics in a firm full of actuaries. This is some serious analytics. And next to him is Rodrigo Martinez. He's the life sciences strategist at IDEO. I think probably a lot of people know IDEO quite well. Design firm, roots in industrial design, but doing so much now in experience and service design. And then on close to this end, John Levy and Jonathan Cedar. They're from BioLite. I won't even tell you their story if you don't already know it. It's such a fantastic story. Jonathan Cedar is the co-founder and president and CEO of the company, and really kind of the inventor behind the amazing solution that they've got. And John Levy is their chairman of the board, and he's also on the board of a lot of other really innovative startups and does a lot of investing and that kind of stuff. So without further ado, I think we wanted to start with Innosight, and so you guys come up, and I'll let you guys. Sorry?
Start here?
Yeah, that's
right. So, I want to say a few words about disruption, actually. I think we have about 2 minutes and take it from there. But I think one of the, for me, if you read the, sort of get into the blogs around disruptive innovation, it's such a big word that we use a lot. And you hear either two stories. One is the sort of spectacular rise of a new firm that's doing fantastic things, or some type of catastrophe that's taken place. I remember about 2 years ago, if you were blogging on BlackBerry, you had about 150 commenters on your blog. So it's the stories of 65% market share withering within 36 months down to 5%. And I think there's a bit of schadenfreude for those stories. We like to pile on. They're quite sensationalistic. But I think it's important for us to realize that at the systemic level, at least in the United States, but probably globally, is you're seeing a tremendous amount of churn in the economy. So we did an analysis probably about 2 years ago, and one of the things that we discovered that is probably, I would say about 12 years from now, only about 25% of the current S&P will still be on that list. If you march back in time to like 1960, if you were on that list, you could probably stay on for about 60 years. Right now, you can probably hope to stay on for about 15. So it's not just about those sort of really interesting, sensational stories. It's really about something that's happening in our economy right now. And I think what's fascinating to me, and I don't know, you guys in the audience might have a better feel for this, but even for me, I'm in the strategy and innovation world, it's really hard for me to even name a half a dozen or a dozen companies that have truly transformed themselves. I mean big institutions, large corporations who have pivoted in some significant kind of way. And I think if you put these two things together, it raises a serious set of questions. We've got these large companies that have really struggled to transform themselves, but they are providing a large portion of the employment for this country. And at the same time, we're seeing all this churn that's taking place. So I think one of two things has to happen. Either we all come to grips with the sort of mortality of a business, that those life cycles are shrinking, and then we can just expect to see more decline. Or, I think, culturally speaking, and those of us who are in the innovation and strategy business, I think we really have to figure out how to get transformation right. And I think it's happening too infrequently right now, and I think it's quite important. I imagine a lot of you guys out there are entrepreneurs in your startups. You're sort of the core makers of creative destruction, but I think those incumbents really have to focus on how do they innovate at scale. Because if they can't, they won't be around as long. So that's my sort of story, is really sort of thinking about how do we innovate at scale for large organizations, not just the startups.
Yeah, I'm Praveen Tipirneni with Cubist Pharmaceuticals. Just for those who don't know, Cubist Pharmaceuticals, we're an antibiotic company. More than 10 years ago, we were a classic venture-backed startup. We got our first drug on the market in 2002, and this year we hit $1 billion in sales with that drug. So we've got a nice success story of the last decade. I thought, pivoting from Chatham's kind of high-level view, I thought I'd just tell an anecdote about the efforts we go through to enable innovation. The pharmaceutical industry actually has been a story over the last 10 years of little innovation, actually declining productivity, less novelty and things like that. Luckily, we've bucked the trend, but the pharmaceutical industry is trying very hard to bring innovation back into the industry, an area that hasn't been great over the last 10 years. One of the things we did, as I just want to share this anecdote, one of the things we did was we saw some research from Professor Patton here at MIT, who has, at one point was one of the most referenced scientists around. He'd done a lot of work on innovation and had an ability to quantitate interactions that led to innovation. So he has this sensor, they call it a sociometer, for those who aren't aware of it, which doesn't know what you're saying, but it measures the tone of your voice, it knows who's in front of you at any particular time, and so it measures a whole slew of quantitative variables that have never been able to be quantitated before. There's a spin-off company from MIT called Sociometric Solutions, Ben Weber. I called him up and we did a small study with him where we took some groups, because we wanted to ensure that very diverse input is coming into our functional groups. Are they all talking to each other? Is the right amount of outside input coming in? And because that's what their research showed, and actually the industry at large is trying to do the same thing. And a lot of interesting things came out of it, but one of the interesting things that came out of it is that nobody at Cubist eats lunch with each other. So Ben said that, he said, one very strange finding at Cubist that we haven't seen in any other company is that none of you guys eat lunch with each other. Everybody eats lunch at their desk, right? It's a very tactical, very execution-focused company that's done very well, but the interactions, the social interactions that lead to innovations, the conversations around the water cooler, those kind of things apparently weren't happening at Cubist, and he said it was a very odd finding. And that led to a whole sequence of events where we changed, the architecture. We just never thought about it before, right? That nobody eats lunch with each other. Why don't they eat lunch with each other? And then we looked at the cafeteria and we said, that's probably why they don't eat cafeteria. I wouldn't want to eat lunch here myself, right? We changed the vendors. We had new construction come in, and now it's a complete change. Beautiful cafeteria. The food has changed completely and things like that. And shockingly, I was a skeptic too, but shockingly, if you go down there at noontime now, everybody's eating lunch with each other. And so that one of those innovation efforts, hopefully, will result in product innovation ultimately, but it certainly has had a dramatic change on the culture and just the energy and how people interact. So we put a lot of effort into those kind of activities.
I love the thing about having lunch together. I don't know if I just have to throw this in. Do you know that they did a study at one point at the Xerox Park to find out, it was in this book, The Innovation Factory, which maybe people have read, but they found that and this is the days before they had Alex Pentland or Sandy Pentland's little sociometers, but they through this really careful study, they found that the most productive innovators, the people with the most patents, which was their metric, had all had this one thing in common, which is that they had lunch with this one guy. And he turned out to be like the secret weapon. And it turned out it was because he had this just great gift for asking good questions. Anyway, okay, let's hear next from BioLite.
Great.
When you want to play the video, because there's some controls that I need to.
Sure, so I thought we'd start out with a quick video that is an overview of what BioLite does, and then we can talk briefly about how we do it.
Energy. We use it every day. To cook our meals, to light our homes, to communicate, to create, to do. But access to energy isn't that simple. Half the planet cooks on smoky open fires, and 1.5 billion people lack reliable access to electricity. The effects of this are staggering. Here at BioLite, we've set out to solve some of the world's most pressing challenges. It's time for all of us to get involved. It's time for a new generation of energy. We figured out a way to turn this into this. And when you do this, you're helping us do this. So BioLite can build this, so we can all do this. Over the past year alone, you helped us launch 3 programs in India, Ghana, Uganda. And you also showed us the power of energy right here at home on the trails and on the streets. Thanks to your support, BioLite products are being used in over 70 countries worldwide. But there's more to be done. More products to invent, more markets to build, and more problems to solve. It's time to transform the way we look at energy and the impact we can have together. That is the business of our business. Help us fulfill the promise of energy everywhere. Go to biolitestove.com and join the new generation of energy. From all of us here at BioLite, thanks for your continued support.
So this is a video we launched back in December to, kind of trying to invigorate our user base around our mission. And our mission is to bring clean, reliable, safe energy access to everyone, everywhere. And as you can tell from the video, our focus, at least initially, is around clean cooking. So half the planet still cooks on smoky, open wood fires, and the emissions from these fires kills more people than HIV and malaria combined. But it's really a problem that very few people have paid attention to, and very little technology has been applied to, and very little innovative business modeling has been applied to. And so, we started out really with a technical insight, which was that if you could take a fan and blow it on a fire, if you could blow air into a fire in a specific way, you could cause the smoke to reburn and reduce emissions by greater than 90%. And the way that we got there was by harnessing the waste heat of the the waste heat of the fire and turning it into electricity. And through that, we created these cook stove systems that could use the locally available fuels, give you clean cooking akin to, propane, and also charge your cell phone, which was a big problem in these very same markets. That the people who cook on wood are the same people who don't have access to electricity. But we had this great technical solution. The harder part for us was, how do you turn that into a business? We're trying to access some of the world's poorest markets, the world's poorest people, without a lot of distribution infrastructure. And the short answer to that was, it's going to require time. And the question for us was, how do we get that time to be able to solve a problem this big? And what we decided to do was to take the same technology that was really valuable in off-grid environments in emerging markets and commercialize it in parallel in camping and emergency preparedness markets. And so we created one of the products that you saw here, which we call the BioLite Camp Stove. And it's a cool way to go camping, not bring petroleum fuels, have a great cooking experience, and keep your iPhone charged so you can navigate the trails and take photos. and so far so good. We're
Camping 2.0.
Camping 2.0, yes, Fire 2.0. And so far so good. We did raise some venture right in the beginning, but we're now in our 7th consecutive profitable quarter. And we've funded pilot programs of what we call our home stove product in India, Ghana, and Uganda. And so I think the crux of our model of innovation is having a financial underpinning that allows us the time to be innovative.
We'll talk very briefly. I'm not going to add much more other than the fact that we have a process of what we refer to as parallel innovation, where we're using the technology, market understanding, the consumer understanding to sort of activate both markets, so that we're working with the recreation and preparedness market and in the emerging market, so that there's almost a conversation going on between the two of them. And that's central to what we're working on, that we hope we can sort of share with you today.
Yeah, and I think to elaborate on that, that's, I think the financial piece is the underpinning, but as John is saying, it's social, it's technical, it's marketing. The technologies we create for emerging markets influence the technologies we create for camping markets. Everything we learn from our campers gets rolled into our emerging markets products, and And then one of the most interesting findings we've had over the last couple of years is I think we understood that the emerging markets mission of our business would be charismatic to a camper. The piece that we didn't understand is that symbiosis worked in the other direction as well, where people without a lot of resources still want aspirational product. And when we go into villages and talk about the fact that we engage with a very wealthy consumer who wants really nice stuff, that's actually quite compelling for them, that they know this is the best engineering, the best quality, even though it has to be at an affordable price.
So I'm curious about the group here. Raise your hand if you're involved in social enterprise. Are there